Powered by Riverside FM.
In the creative arts, cross-pollination is a frequent affair. Musicians often venture into acting roles. Theatre performers are hired to give gravitas to comic book adaptations. And of course, there's those who take up directing, after years being in front of the camera. When this shift happens, these individuals often bring something of their old careers with them, giving their new authorial voice a unique twang. But what's a rare occurrence is when a video game developer known to be a master of a particular genre ventures into uncharted territory. Yet, this was the curious case of Criterion Games. The developer is best known for breathing life into the long-running Need for Speed franchise, helping with the vehicle portions of DICE's Battlefield games, and, more importantly, shaking up the racing genre with their own homegrown franchise, Burnout. Outside of Polyphony and Codemasters, no studio has done more for the genre of racing games than the Guildford-based EA subsidiary. What separates a Criterion racer from the Statesman developers is a sense of attitude and reckless abandonment. Cars aren't designed to be fetishized or fine-tuned, but rather they should be smashed together at high speeds and blown to pieces in the middle of crosstown traffic, all whilst looking as good as the competition can muster. It was sweet serendipity when, at the tail end of the Xbox era, Criterion announced that they were going to do for the first-person shooter what Burnout had done for racing games: tear a new one. A genre already well known for explosive carnage, surely Criterion would raise the bar with their established authorial twang. With the full support of Electronic Arts behind them, Criterion's first venture into the FPS was a roulette colour worth betting on. The question was, did the gamble pay off? On this episode of Bullet Time, we evaluate Criterion Games' 2006 title, Black.
Can't remember the company that makes them, but yeah, no, it's one that I've wanted for a while. But yeah, it's great.
Cool. Have you made a start on it yet?
No, I've got this Immortality video I'm finishing up, so I've got to do that.
I thought you was about to say I've got Immortality, so I can sit on that.
Yeah, I got nothing but time to work on that. Once all my loved ones are dead and all the places I used to go have crumbled like Rome, then I'll get to start on the Gunpla. Hi everybody, and welcome to Bullet Time, the video game podcast that analyzes the shooters that missed their marks. As usual, I'm James, and we got a new guest host today, folks, who has been talking about his job, which I'll be bleeping out the important details of that. You may know him best as YouTube's very own Seventh Wave Soldier. It's to Snaker.
I didn't know I was a soldier of any description, but I like the idea of it.
Yeah, Soldier of Fortune, one might say, but that's not the game that we're covering today, fortunately for us. We're actually talking... Even though I said that this is a podcast about shooters that missed their mark, I mean, this one kind of did in some aspects, which I guess we're going to dig into, but I think by all accounts it is a pretty good game. I
think it mostly succeeded in what it seems to want to do.
Yeah, but it's a bit of a cult. I think if you ask most people, like, the thing that I kind of came to with it is that, like, the people who know what it is, like, really love it. It's just more so that, like, a lot of people don't know what, well, the game that we're talking about today is, which is Black, and was pretty special. So we did get in an expert on this, folks. You could say that Black is literally in his name.
You could say that. You could say that.
You could say that. You could also say that he is. Actually, no. Should I go with that joke, or would that be inappropriate? Snake, are you on my wavelength for this? Do you know what I was going to say?
I think now you should just go for it, even though it's horribly awkward.
Okay, cool. Folks, it's the black man himself, Hamish Black from Writing on Games.
That was worse than I expected. Never mind. I was not on your wavelength whatsoever.
All right.
Okay.
Hamish, how's it going? I'm
doing all right. Yeah. I'm
good. Good.
I'm the content soldier here.
That's true. Well, we got a couple
There
of
are-
front
consensus.
lines.
There
we're
are
all
icebreakers. There are icebreakers, and then there are black icebreakers because you skidded off the road with that one.
I don't know. Do you know what though? Because this episode's been planning in a while. This was like the first thing that popped into my head. The moment I knew that Hamish was going to be involved, I was like, "Oh, I could try this joke. It might land with some people."
Is this why I'm your co-host? Because I'm the only co-host who would have just been, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, I don't think it was. I don't think I was going to try that out on Kevin. He wouldn't have appreciated it. We'll be cutting all of that out. We'll just
To bring it back around, you would have been blacklisted.
Yes, true.
Very true.
There we go.
Folks, today we're talking about EA and Criterion Games' Black, a game that I kept saying was a 2005 release until I got corrected on this just the other day. Actually came out very early, 2006. It was one of the last few Xbox and PS2 games, because at this point the 360 was out. Like, it didn't have a ton of stuff because it had, like, I think, Call of Duty 3 was probably, like, the first FPS game on that console. It was a launch title.
Perfect Dark Zero and Quake 4 were also launches, and both games that I actually played a lot of Perfect Dark Zero because it had split-screen online multiplayer, which was all me and my mates really needed. Quake I gave a miss.
Oh yeah, no, we're digging. We're recording all this stuff out of order, but we're digging into Quake 4 relatively soon. Boy.
Okay.
Hamish, do you not know about Quake 4?
I mean, I know of Quake 4. What?
There's exactly one scene people remember it for, and it's a non-interactive segment.
Yeah. So you have Quake 1, which is based on their D&D games, Cthulhu Mythos stuff, like dark fantasy. And then you have Quake 2, where they're trying to figure out for ages how to do a sci-fi game. And then John Romero leaves id, and they're like, well, he was the only one who was going about for the Cthulhu stuff, so should we just make Quake 2 the sci-fi shooter? And they were like, yeah, let's do that. And then they're like, oh, shit, Quake 3, what do we do for that? And it's like, let's create Super Smash Brothers, but as an arena shooter. So all the characters from 1 come back, all the characters from 2 come back, and a bunch of new people. And so it's like, well, where do you go from there for 4? And, they went in a bad direction, is all I'm going to say.
Wait, is that the one where you're on, like, the conveyor belt? And
Yeah,
you
that's exactly the scene that anyone
okay.
bothers to remember, the strogification scene.
Yes, okay.
I'm not going to just do the Quake 4 episode, but I will say I did actually wind up watching that scene a couple of days ago, actually, out of weird curiosity. That scene it's sort of effective, but is also massively undercut by just using the standard pain grunt noises for everything. It's like, you're taking a buzzsaw across the chest, and it's like, ugh! Someone could just go through and recut serious Sam noises on that scene, and it wouldn't actually lose too much gravitas.
Fucking Tim Allen grunts.
We're not talking about Quake 4.
Now, alright, we're co-opting the episode now. It's no longer...
Hey, folks. Okay, today we're talking about Quake 4, a Raven Software 2005 shooter. Hamish, what's your... Well, first things first, if folks at home don't know who you are, which I think is... I think in terms of profiles, it's you and Snake are on a similar level, and then, like, you're both helping me out on this podcast. I think people know who you are. But
I'm quite happy to be here.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I'm just happy. I'm happy to be talking to my good pals.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm Hamish. I host the YouTube channel Writing on Games. I do like I do, like I feel like I do video essays is going to be a very common introductory phrase on this show.
Yeah, that's most people I know are people who make video essays.
But yeah, no, it's aye, and I also do a Daft podcast with my pal Nico.
That's true. We're both anchor. We're both co-anchors on Anchor. We're both on the Anchor platform. You
two are
me, and Rogan.
co-wankers.
Oh yes, yeah, we are colleagues. We are peers.
Of Joe Rogan. I haven't seen him. I've gone in the office plenty. I haven't seen him yet. I'm still holding out hope to get. What do you think, Joe? What do you think is an FPS game that Joe Rogan has played? I want to say that he's probably played most of the CODs, but I'm trying to think of like what's.
I think
something...
he's just blasting Postal 2 on repeat.
Oh, you reckon he's a Postal 2 fan?
Oh, yeah. As a Postal 2 fan, you know him when you see him.
He's probably talking about like the wokies are trying to silence hatred. He's probably still on that train.
I don't know that there's anyone who's ride or die for hatred. Even on an edgelord level, there's boredom and then there's hatred.
I just like the idea that I have him on the podcast, and he's just like, "You're trying to silence me. You don't want me to express my views." And it's like, yeah, but not because hatred is a a fucking firebrand of a game. It's because it's not an FPS game.
True.
There is a mod.
No,
there is an FPS mod.
Oh, is there?
Yeah. Don't know why I brought up such an inane fact, but it just struck me that they have done that. Someone went to the fucking effort.
Jesus.
God, does it make the game any better? Or,
I never played it, so I don't know.
No idea.
I saw that. I've seen it. I always forget it exists, and then I see it again, and I go, huh. And I just kind of carry on with my day after that, and not much changes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just kind of happens, and like, oh, yeah. So on we go.
I mean, if folks at home want us to cover it, I mean, there is the hot side of Patreon. You could actually say in your message, please cover the Hatred FPS mod. And, I mean, it'd be out of my hands. I'd have to do it. So, keep that in mind.
You could force him to play Hatred, which would be perhaps the worst use of your money that you could possibly come up with. You could request any game.
I thought you meant more and so of like anyone else that you could get to play Hatred, but it's like they get me. I'm like the worst person to talk about Hatred. I guess maybe that's true. I don't know if I would gel with Hatred that much. Like not even on an ironic level.
Nah, I don't see it. Don't see it.
You don't think I could do like a Nintendo tuber style video where I'm in front of my game collection and I talk about Hatred like it's a Mario RPG game.
No,
I loved Hatred.
Hatred is a game that not a lot of people know about, but it's one of my favorites from my childhood.
I just imagine Hatred being your favorite. There's got to be someone out there for whom Hatred is their favorite video game.
I am trying to think.
I'll find them and interview them on this podcast.
I think
put feelers out.
I think there are people out there who do really like that is their favorite game, but the FBI has already found theirs. So I'm not gonna...
So Black.
Yeah. We'll get there.
Hamish, how did you discover Black then? How is this? What was your first interaction with Black?
So my first interaction with Black was I have a very vivid memory of this was still in the kind of era where I was regularly buying video game magazines and stuff. And it was it was a game that I saw posited as this is the kind of the next generation of shooter games, If COD had been out, if COD had been the juggernaut that it was at it would become at that point, then it would be called, then Black would be called a COD killer. That's the kind of the level of rhetoric that was being thrown around this game. It was it was this technological marvel that it was. I saw a lot of stuff talking about the story was amazing and all. It had all this like narrative potential. And then it was one of the last games I remember renting from Blockbuster.
Interesting.
It's
that feels really appropriate for it.
Totally.
It is a perfect rent. I mean, we'll dig into it, but it is like a perfect rental game in regards to like, it is very like one and done, which I think is so funny in regards to, as you were saying, like, yeah, I kind of remember the magazine because like I was, just to embarrass myself in front of the boys here, I was an avid reader of Edge for pretty much from the time I had my own pocket money. I did. XOM, forget it. Nintendo Official Magazine, don't care. No, I was straight into Edge. I knew that was the leading thinking guys video game magazine.
I think I've said this to you before, but I think Edge was the first thing I called pretentious in my life.
Amazing.
As a kid. Like, genuinely as a kid, I thought, this is pretentious. And then I just kept buying PC Gamer because it had a disc.
I think that's the thing as well, is that like there was no ever, I guess maybe until like maybe Games TM, there was no ever any kind of middle ground with games magazines. Either you were Edge and writing stuff like, why can't they make a version of Doom where you can talk to the monsters instead of shooting them? Or it was PC Gamer magazine, whereas like they would have like shit joke articles in it, like, the next Tomb Raider game is Lara Croft's Killing Zoo. Look at all these exotic animals that you made.
I'm all about PlayStation Max.
PlayStation Max. That's a fucking pull right there.
I had to just like Google like what was that? Like I used to get PlayStation Max all the time when I was a kid.
Was that under Future Publishing as well? Or were they?
I think that was a Future joint. It was Future. Yep.
Yeah. I think everything was.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I think at that point it was, because like Games Master was Future. I think Edge eventually became part of Future, but before that was what Games TM was that their attempt of doing like a Edge glossy, kind of hardcover-ish magazine, and then going, I know, we'll just buy Edge. No, that's, and just have both. But it was funny because I remember my dad, like, I think I had an N64 for a little bit, but then we did eventually get a PlayStation. My dad's thought was like, well, it's a better investment because you can just buy the magazines with the demos in them. It's cheaper than actual games. And it's like, yeah, fair point. I can do that. And so, yeah, you just end up, getting like official PlayStation magazine and PlayStation Max, where you get like a single level from Siphon Filter and a weird time demo of like Medieval and stuff, or Medieval or whatever it's called, that game.
The Skeleton Man. I had a Cooler World. That was my introduction.
I
spent years looking for it until that Matthew Matosis video. I was like, that's what it was.
Oh god, yeah, that Matthew Matosis video like unlocked something in my head as well. Of just with that demo 1 disc that came with the original PlayStation, where it had Cooler World on it, and I think like a single level from like Crash Bandicoot 3 or something on it, and it's like, oh wow, I don't need 4 games. This is great. That's all I
remember going to like Tea in the Park like 2006 or something, and Kula Shaker was playing. I was like, this guy's a real fucking gamer. He knows his shit. I mean, it's like, to go back to PlayStation Max. Like I'm looking at an eBay listing for a PlayStation Max thing, and I think it's kind of fitting that the rest of all the related items are just old issues of Mayfair from like 1996.
Wow.
It's like they have to like cover up the covers with like bits of paper because they're a bit too raunchy, just like PlayStation Max.
I mean, PlayStation Max was it PlayStation Max, or was it the other one that had what's the comic artist's name? Joe Madeira or Adiara or something? But he was like the first guy at Marvel Comics to basically figure out, what if we combined Western cartoons with anime into the same style? And he was like the lead artist on like Ultimate Spider-Man, the first few runs of that. Like,
I was going to say, I think like PlayStation Max is more like, that's the one that has like the dog that like if the review was if the game they were reviewing was bad, then the dog would take a big shit or something like that.
Oh, they need to bring that back. Like, we should still keep, like, you know, the thoughtful video essay style of, like, you know, using games as a jumping off point to talk about literature. But then at the end, you should just have like if it's a shit game, it's a guy vomiting. Or if it's a really good game, it looks like he's being hit by like 10,000 volts, like his hair's sticking up.
That'd be really good, though, because there was always the complaint, oh, we can't do review numbers anymore because people just go to the number. People never complain is, I gotta go to the end and see if he's taking a shit.
Yeah, exactly. You should have like kids in the schoolyard being like, yo, they gave the new Call of Duty the turd. No, I don't believe it, dude. You got a can, and they're just like, you know, oh, you know, Benedetta, you know, it's a wonderful film, really speaks to sexuality and, you know, religion and stuff. But we have had to give it the Golden Toilet Award. So, so it was the magazines that's how you discovered Black, then, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it was the same with like a lot of. You know, I mean, like a lot of games like that, like Killzone was described in exactly the same terms.
A Halo killer, yeah.
Yeah, totally.
I'm keen. I'd like. The problem is that like Killzone 2, 3, and Shadowfall like do not fit the remit of this podcast at all. Like 2 is, I mean, it's all arguable anyways. But Killzone 1, like I feel, does kind of fit the mold of it, we could potentially cover it because it's I played it a little bit of it a couple of weeks ago for the first time, and it's not a good game.
It's a slog, yeah. I mean the thing is, like I kind of I don't think I've ever really liked Killzone. I've played a bunch of like 1 through 3, and I played 1 specifically because the magazines were all telling me, you know, like, this is amazing, this is going to be so great and so great.
They killed Master Chief they killed one Master Chief to make 1 copy of Killzone. That's how good it is.
It was very generic, and it occupies exactly the same point in my mind as Resistance.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Even though they're a generation starting point apart, there's both of them basically occupy the same point, and not to get into the remit of what can and can't be covered on this podcast.
Sure.
I don't know. Maybe in retrospect, yes, because it has kind of fizzled out at this point. It survived at a PS4, which is no small feat.
Sure.
But it didn't exactly go out on a high note, did it?
No, if anything, like Killzone kind of just existed as a testbed to make an engine to make much better Horizon Zero Dawn games.
Yeah.
And I guess also make an interesting character that they could always have in like the Sackboy games and PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale.
Yeah. Remember that really iconic character, the Hellgas.
The Hellgas, yeah. I always love media where it's just like, no, these are the fascist bad guys, but we put all our effort into designing them, but please don't think they're cool.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. This is the mascot.
they're sitting over the table from, oh God, what's the Korean anime called? Like, Gyro or whatever it is, where it is literally just about like stormtroopers blowing people up, and people are like, this anime is cool, I want to be like those guys.
See, the problem is you kind of get in when, you know, the Nazis had a fashion label.
I mean, they all wear Hugo Boss.
Yeah, they had Hugo Boss. And then the Hellgas, they had Hugo Boss.
The Hellgas, yeah, very famous. Much like Dante in Devil May Cry 2 wore Levi's, all the Hellgas were wearing...
hang on. He had Diesel.
God damn it.
I mean, the thing is, I guess to kind of bring it back round to Black is
back in Black, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Is that, you know, at least, like, the Hellgast had some kind of, like, visual identity to them, whereas, like, nothing in this game, outside of, like, the differentiation between grunt with machine gun and heavy grunt with shotgun, like, there's absolutely zero identity to any of them.
Here's the thing, there are also shield enemies, and they are the only enemies in the game that got my goat a little. The shotgun guys I kind of enjoyed. I enjoyed there's a catharsis to putting them down because everything is so punchy that even this bullet sponge enemy, it's a sponge with it's a punching bag rather than a sponge. There's some satisfaction to it.
But it's like I just love how the shotgun enemies, they do that whole like kind of like there's like two phases to them. You have to knock them down and then they get back up, and it's like a banana slip, like banana.
They fall on their back like a baby turtle. It's so good.
Oh, aye. Aye. Sorry, go on.
Should we rewind and maybe start from the beginning of the game?
Sure.
What kicks us off?
We could see. What is the beginning of the game? Did we?
Okay. So I've kind of pulled myself into a trap because minutes before this podcast began, I went through my recording. I recorded the whole game and I cut only the cutscenes out, put them in a timeline, checked them, and I still don't know what the fuck happened in Black. And I beat it last night.
I watched a compilation of cutscenes I just watched somebody's playthrough on YouTube, which was a nice tight 3 hours long. So good job on that guy. I just watched all the cutscenes, and even when watching them, completely focused on them and taking them all in, I still don't quite understand. It's got an incredibly...
The problem is, it feels like it's a lot of information for absolutely one thing happening.
Yeah. It's the world's simplest plot, because essentially it's just Heart to Darkness for idiots. It's...
Well, there we go.
The thing is, so I actually... because I had the exact same thing of, I played through the game... the other day again, I played through it back when I rented it from Blockbuster. I don't remember anything about the actual story. And then I played it again recently, and I beat it, and like you, Snake, I got to the end, I was like, what the fuck just happened? I don't but the thing is, I was reading a preview because I wanted to see what the idea was behind this game, because there's a Eurogamer preview from 2005. I think it was an E3 thing where they were showing it behind closed doors. It was one of those demos, the preview guy was saying most game previews would probably resort to retelling the game's storyline at this point. Criterion's not playing ball just yet. To date, EA hasn't even issued a press release or anything like that. All we know so far is what Ward's prepared to let us in on, that it's about, quote, a black military operation, end quote. And it's that's kind of it. That's it.
So do you want to know a really funny anecdote about that? Because I've been going into trying to find as much stuff as possible about how was the game made and whatever. And I would say quite a lot of this I found through there's a really good Polygon article from March 2019 written by Xavier Nelson Jr., who's a pretty good game designer in his own right. But in that article is a bunch of Wayback Machine links to Criterion's website where they talk about the development of Black.
Right.
This fact isn't on there, but I did find it through another source. Snake also found this earlier, and you were laughing about it. The game originally wasn't going to have a plot. It was just going to be a series of levels, one after the other, where the only context you got were the little bits that happened between them. Right towards the end of development, EA says, can you add some cutscenes to this? Because no one's gonna know what the fuck is happening. Jeremy Chubb, the EA producer on this, I just want to get his name in there before I forget, because it is such a fantastic name. Yeah, Jezza Chubbs came in and said,
old Chubbers.
old Chubbenstein said, look, this needs a plot. And so there is a quote from Alex Ward, who's he was the creative director at Criterion at the time, and was he's one of the exec producers on this game. He was so I had this really interesting idea of doing it like a radio play, and it's oh yeah, I bet you did. I bet that wasn't something you came up with in the last 2 months of development.
Well, there's another fun anecdote about this game story, which runs sort of counter to, not exactly counter, it's just amusing that these two facts exist on the development of the game. So what else happened in thinking of the story for Black?
Okay, so I'm gonna dig into a little bit about like kind of how the game was made, and even though this will be kind of at the introduction of the episode, I'm gonna tell you this about this, Hamish, because I'm not sure if you know this or not. But basically, so Criterion Games, obviously they're a part of EA now. They do all the Need for Speed games, but obviously what they're better known for is Burnout. You play the Burnouts?
Oh yeah. I'm a massive Burnout fan. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is your favorite Burnout game?
Revenge, controversially.
No, I'm with you on Revenge. I'm with you.
Interesting.
I like that more than 3.
Revenge I've never played. 3 is my favorite. I'm glad that we're all on the same thing of actually we don't Paradise isn't our favorite Burnout game, because I feel like that is the popular opinion.
Pick a thing and go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm on exactly the same wavelength. So Criterion, obviously, before they are a games development company, it's a story that's relevant to all games companies. Of course, they're part of the Canon Camera Corporation, and they're working on a piece of 3D software which eventually turns into Renderware, which is this engine that is in a lot of PS2 titles at the time, but like they basically put together Criterion Games to make the games to advertise Renderware.
Yeah. And
one of the games that they put together is a game on the Dreamcast called Trick Style, which is a airboarding skateboarding game. And it eventually gets like a spiritual sequel on the PS2 called Airblade.
Airblade, yep.
Yeah. Which I was telling Snake about this the other day. It's a game that I had never played up until like for this episode, but burnt into my memory from when I was a little kid was the advert for Airblade.
Yep.
Which is Isaac Newton trying to figure out gravity on a blackboard, getting angry with it, and then just throwing an apple into the air, and then it spins around like an orbiting planet. It's such a because like nothing else is floating, and it just stops on a dime and rotates on the spot, and it says like gravity no longer exists, and then it's like a trailer for Airblade, which cool little game. I mean, came out
fine.
Right. It's absolutely fine. I like it more than the other Tony Hawk style games that came out around the same time, which usually had crap controls. This is okay, but like the objective system in it kind of sucks.
Yes, yeah, for sure. This Airblade better than Simpsons skateboarding.
Oh, yeah.
The lowest possible bar to clear right there.
Not as good as Disney movies Extreme Skate Pin, whatever it's called, which is literally based on the fucking Tony Hawk's engine.
I had, this is a weird anecdote, like side thing.
Sure.
I had my band was playing a show down south or something, and we stayed at the drummer's pal's house, and they had a PS2, and the only games they had on it were The Simpsons skateboarding and the Da Vinci Code PS2 game.
It's a man of austere taste.
They had the fucking booklet that came with the Da Vinci Code game, and they'd filled out all like the notes section in it, all like the puzzles and stuff.
Did they think they were actually trying to crack the Da Vinci Code?
That was a
I'm
wild
gonna do it in a
weekend.
PS2 manual.
Man.
But they do Airblade, and Airblade comes out height of Tony Hawk's, does pretty well for Namco, and it gets the attention of EA, who at the time were looking to reboot their Commodore series Skate or Die. And so they go to Criterion and they go, hey, you guys want to take a crack at that? And they go, yeah, absolutely. And this is 2002, so they've shipped the first Burnout at this point for Acclaim, and I think they're in the middle of the working on the second one, but Acclaim's not doing very well at this point. Like, they're hemorrhaging money left and right, which is why eventually they end up going under, and like Turok ends up at Disney for some weird reason, and like a couple of their other games end up all over the place. The South Park FPS game, that's just in legal limbo. You can't even get access to that now. But yeah, they go, make a skate or die game for us. And they get into the production stage, and Criterion pitches, we want to do this, like, back to basic skating game where, like, you can get off the board and it's just more about chilling and, like, skating around and just doing simple tricks and stuff, which, I don't know, weirdly familiar to a skateboarding game that EA would eventually make. But this was the year after fucking Grand Theft Auto 3 came out and became the biggest thing in the world. So EA said, no. We want this to be the biggest open world game on the market and skateboarding. So Criterion, who was still a tiny team at the time, they basically go to them and they say, we can't do this. This is, like, impossible. EA tells them, you can't vouch an RD. We are going to sue you into administration. We are going to destroy your company. It's a Criterion. Yeah, I know. It's like this is from the words of Alex Ward, the creative director of the company. He was just like, yeah, EA were like they wanted to, like, ruin us, to the extent that Criterion at the time were also going to potentially be working on a Need for Speed game with the team that was making them, called Need for Speed Split Second, which was all about stunt racing and sounds very similar to a game that would come out years after the fact by Disney called Split Second.
Yeah.
But I haven't been able to figure out if this is where it came from. But the Need for Speed team said, we can't talk to you anymore because EA said that you're a bad developer and you can't be trusted.
How many episodes has EA been the villain in?
This is the first episode that we're doing about EA. Oh, but there will be a lot of EA being the villain of the story will be an interesting thing. But here's the thing. Next year at E3, Alex Ward is there, like, looking and seeing what's up. And Jezza Chubbs comes up and goes, hey, sorry about what happens on the Skate or Die project. Do you still want to work with EA? And it's like at that point you'd kind of be like, what the fuck are you talking about? You said that you were going to destroy our company. But Acclaim has gone tits up at this point, so they haven't got, like, a publisher for Burnout. And the EA guy says to him, why don't you do Burnout 3 with us? And Alex Ward thinks so, and apparently what they said to them was, we will do Burnout 3, but we have 100% creative control. You don't get involved in this like you did on Skate or Die. And EA agrees to it and says, absolutely, but if you need our help for, like, marketing and QA and stuff like that, we'll give it to you. And in a weird turn of events, apparently the development of Burnout 3 just went swimmingly, and they built a really good relationship with EA. And I think I kind of think that's how, like, Takedown comes out, and it is just such a, because, like, Burnout 1 and 2 are, like, really solid games, but, like, 3 is, like, where things get, like, really good. And I kind of think a lot of that is down to, I don't know, it just has a little bit of extra spit and polish to it, which I guess is the only thing that you get with a big publisher. And I don't know, it's funny, and they just kind of fall in love working with EA. Like, they become, like, really good friends with the SSX, like, lead developer, like, kind of creative director, and, like, that's why the structure of 3 is a lot like the structure of, like, SSX Tricky, and there's a really good anecdote about that as well, where they're talking about the what do they call it? The boost mode in Burnout 3 Takedown.
Oh, yeah.
And basically, the creative director of SSX, Steven Reckschnaffer, who was a Burnout 2 fan, he basically said that using the boost in Burnout 3 should be like snorting a huge bowl of cocaine.
Cocaine, which is so often served in bowls.
You know, all those Hollywood parties where it's just like, hey, take a sniff from the cocaine bowl, folks.
I don't know, get the cornflakes out of that.
Exactly. This cocaine turns the milk white.
you just have, like, Hollywood executives with, like, bowl, and it's like, no, that's my bowl of cocaine, I'm hogging it. You can't have any.
Hey, don't bogart the bowl.
Oh, I really hate it when you make your own bowl of cocaine and then other people start sniffing from it, and it's like you didn't pay for it. Come on.
Coca leave off. Come on.
But basically, Burnout 3 does so well that EA says to them, "You got a blank check for whatever you want to do next. So what's it gonna be?" And Alex Ward, who's this guy that I've mentioned a few times, he's been at Criterion from around the time that they were working on Burnout 1, but originally he was at Acclaim. He was, what was his act? So his title was, he was a product researcher, and what that basically meant was that Acclaim bought him, whatever the biggest game was at the time, let him play it over the weekend, and then he'd go back and say, oh, this is good, or this is bad, and this is what's good about it, or, here's things that we could potentially improve on. And one weekend, back in the 90s, at this point, he's already a massive fan of stuff like Doom and GoldenEye 007. But they give him a copy of Medal of Honor for the PS1, and he's like, I've never, played an FPS game like this. This is, blown my mind. This is, if I ever make an FPS game, I want it to, be like this, but better. Mm-hmm. And then when he eventually goes to CES in Las Vegas for Shiny Red Car, which was the prototype name that they had for Burnout 1, he goes with his parents and they go, why don't we go to a gun range while we're over here? Because there's
I remember this. Yeah.
There's a story on the website where he's like, as people may know, in the UK, guns are illegal. So this was a fun chance to have a go at him. Isn't that a misconception? Guns aren't,
Well,
massively...
you can get handguns and shotguns with permits, and there are gun ranges in the UK. They're not particularly common, but they are available and around.
Yeah.
And also, Scotland has way stricter rules on them than England, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's
but I imagine that you're not going to get your hands on an AK at a gun range, which you might be able to swing in America. I imagine in some places.
Yeah.
Possibly.
But yeah, he's describing he hands over his passport, they give him a box of bullets and a gun, and he's just going at it, and it's it just blows his mind, actually using real handguns. And he describes that he sees two Chinese guys firing Desert Eagles and another guy with an AK-47, and he describes it it's the bit in RoboCop where he's in the police range with the pistol and just blowing bits of paper apart. And this ends up then feeding into this kind of FPS idea that he has, where it's we have to the muzzle flashes have to be the brightest thing. You have to feel the recoil of stuff, and so this idea kind of goes on the back burner. And while this is happening, he's getting really into kind of Russian military history stuff. And his initial idea for Black, or what Black would eventually become, was he wanted to do Medal of Honor in Russia. And so with this kind of modern setting where you do have AKs and stuff, but you also have this brand new military tech and, gun tech, which is all the stuff that he's used to from this gun range. And so he's watching a ton of Cold War films. He cites Red Heat, Firefox, and The Hunt for Red October for inspirations. And the plot that he comes up with for this game, because they sit on the idea for so long, he says that I finally gave up on this narrative when I played the first demo of Metal Gear Solid 2's Sons of Liberty.
Yeah!
The E3 demo.
Because they were originally trying to do a suitcase nuke thing or something.
Yeah, that's right.
That. Yeah, and then Metal Gear Solid 2 had you were trying to get the football back or something like that, the nuclear football.
Yeah.
And so and they just ditched it.
So yeah, as a result, he sees that MGS2 does it and goes, what's the fucking line that Trent Reznor says? It's his song now. About fucking hair. Yeah, that's
my much less clever way of putting it was when Hideo Kojima watched Breaking Bad and said, I wish I came up with Breaking Bad. It was never on your radar, Hideo. I love you, man, but that was not happening.
God, imagine if that had been his first game instead of Death Stranding, but it still has like all the weird Kojima-isms in it, like really close up 3D
I would have been head
face.
over fucking heels.
God, I mean, who would they have cast? So Norman Reedus would have been Walt, right? Because at this point, God,
he would have been Skinny Pete. I feel like.
I was going to say he has more physically in common than Jesse than he does with Walt, but I don't know. What's a bald guy that Kojima likes?
I mean, you'd be called Drug Meth Man.
Yeah, he'd just be called Drugman. And there'd be like an hour-long cutscene where it's like, I became more drugs than man because that's where I put all of my time. I became a drug man. My
it's the meth fall.
Oh no! All the enemies in that game are just.
The Chicken Man wouldn't have been a joking nickname. It just would have been literal.
Chicken Brother.
It'd be it'd be John Carlo Esposito being like, they replaced my heart with a chicken heart, so now I know what the chickens feel. And it's like, how are you still alive with a tiny heart?
Hector would be stroke bad luck.
Kojima does like a guy in a wheelchair though, so we would have seen way more Hector.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And there'd be bits where Hector would be like psychically communicating with the twins. The twins already feel like Kojima characters because they go.
The only character who would have exactly the same name would be Crazy 8, and that would be it.
He would completely cut out Hank. He wouldn't figure out what to do with Hank in this. Oh no, for some reason he would make Hank like Walt's like like he would also be helping out Walt.
Hank would be like the bomb disposal guy in Metal Gear Solid 2.
Oh, what?
Yeah, Stillman.
Stillman.
Yeah, Stillman. He killed my soul. And then Hank just goes into a pantry for several hours.
Oh, Christ.
This is indecipherable to a lot of people at this point.
If you get what we're joking about, please leave a comment with 5 stars on your podcast app choice. Say that you enjoyed the bit.
I mean,
ask Hank to leave the pantry.
I was going to say it's interesting that Metal Gear Solid 2 is the thing that got Ward to abandon his original plot, because in the same Eurogamer preview where he just says, "Oh, it's a black military operation." There's a great couple of sentences here where it says, "One thing that's clear is that Criterion is going to finally break with its action-only tradition and furnish Black with the requisite backstory and cast and spin a narrative around the game. Ward asserts that Criterion is making more than the cursory effort their contemporaries usually manage. Quote, can you name a video game where you respect the story work? He ponders. It's tough, isn't it?
That's okay. Well, Icewind Dale, that never happened. Never went the nice. Not a thing.
You know what though? I do kind of respect the story work in this because it kind of gets out of the way.
No, it doesn't though, because you can't skip any of the cutscenes. Like that.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
You can't skip any of the cutscenes, and you have to gather inane crap in the levels. I have exactly one note about the story that isn't, the development thing, which is, now I've mentioned it to James, which is what I find hilarious. The cutscenes, which are live-action cutscenes, the framing device for this is it's 2 men in an interrogation room recounting an operation gone wrong and, following the trail. And my only note is that the character you're playing as and the interrogator are both clearly ADR'd. They are both so obviously not the actual actors to be ADR'd later. Yeah, but the interrogator sounds the part. The interrogator sounds kind of like hardcore, like, oh, we got an actor. Meanwhile, the character you're playing as, hardened Black Ops agent, sounds kind of wimpish and, like, has
even
no
more than
presence.
that, I think I pointed it out to you. He sounds like a British guy doing, like a stereotypical, like, American, like, soldier voice.
Oh, no,
like, he doesn't...
the operation went wrong.
The operation went wrong.
I
so
pursued him.
strange. Like, it's such a strange way, like, because, I mean, also you have that fucking, the intro sequence, which is just, like, white text on black screen.
I want to talk about it because it is so... I'll say...
It's minutes long.
I just want to say, because we haven't touched on the game much, and I guess we will now in saying that I think this game is really good. Like, I think this game...
we're talking about the story, which is not its strong suit, and we're
but
taking the piss, but in a way that it's just amusing. It's not terrible.
But like, if you started playing this game in a bad mood and you were hit with that minute's cutscene at the beginning, you would be like, "Fuck this," and like turn it off. I think that intro is so audacious. The fact that it is black screen with the slowest moving, like fading in text, and it isn't even full credits. It is all of the voice actors, all of the actors in the video, and the score, which I know you tell me your thoughts on this, Nick, which I think is how most people would think. I love the score in this game because it is so ill-fitting.
It's so funny. It's hilarious. It's like this is the whole thing with this game is that, like, unless you actually, like, you go back and you read stuff about, like, right, we wanted to make a game where the guns are the main characters, and we wanted to kind of make the Burnout of shooters where, you know, we have, but like,
I wanted to bring up
guns,
that line in regards to the story, where they're stepping away from their action.
Because it's like if you don't know that, then Black is like a complete, like, weirdo fucking, like, you can't pin it down at all, like, unless you have that context, because it's like, because I was playing this game and I'm like, you know, I'm just gunning down, like, countless people, and I'm just creating like these dust clouds, and there's just this solemn little trumpet, like,
it's music that would have been perfectly fitting in a contemporary game for it, Call of Duty 2, when you're like going through Russia, getting the shit bombed out of it, and watching your fellow men die charging up with only a bullet or a rifle. But then it's like, I spent the whole game thinking, if this was blasting metal at me, this would be so much more apropos.
Or something like, because I'm kind of used to FPS games where if they're modern, it has kind of like an almost like an electronic score, almost like 24, where it's like, like, you know.
I just think something kind of grungy and 80s and like metal is what this game
But the fact that in this game, you go into a Russian bathroom in a gulag and just blow up. Because you were talking about how the Russian soldiers look earlier, and you're like, they're kind of indescript and not memorable. The fact that they all wear blue jeans fucks with me, because it's like they have like body armor and helmets, but then they just have like stonewashed denim, like they're on the set of Friends, and sneakers. And that's funny because that's how you tell them apart, is that if they got the blue jeans on, they have automatics, but if they're wearing the dark blue jeans with the yellow stripes on, and they're the shotgun guys.
I have no idea if I picked up on that. So
I did a couple of playthroughs of this, so eventually I started clocking. Those are those guys. But,
I think I clocked the shotgun guys because they had like big, heavy body armor with shoulder pads,
and big helmets as well.
Yeah,
like. I just think that there is a schlock to this game that the story and set dressing absolutely does not convey.
It is the funniest thing about this game is that the plot is you are a mercenary who's sent into war-torn Chechnya, and even though you're told to combat, you're basically pursuing a rogue mercenary, essentially. Like, you're both as bad as each other because you're going through and you're just like blowing army depots apart, but it's like you're ripping apart Russian soldiers in a bathroom, and the music sounds like it's like from a fucking Sam Raimi Spider-Man film. Like that's the music. Like that's the music when like he goes through his transformation, but it's you being a shitty mercenary just blasting people, and I'm like, I love like going through the docks and just like shooting people off cranes, and it's like like it's like he's swinging through New York City.
But it's like, like, I mean, there's all these secondary objectives that you have to complete in order to finish the mission.
I hate that system.
And it's like so schlocky. It's like you have like a laptop just in the middle of this war zone that you've got to destroy, and then it comes up saying, "Oh, congratulations, you just destroyed a cover like evidence of a cover up of this US war crime or something like that."
That's my favorite because now that I've realised that he was kind of on the same wavelength of Kojima, that makes sense. But the way I thought about it was like, it's like he had listened to his first episode of like Chapo Trap House and was like, oh my god, the American government is awful. Look at all this awful. And so like, you blow up a computer and it's like, well done, you destroyed the files on Bohemian Grove or Secret 9/11 files. And it's just like, I'm the bad guy, really. But it is so like fucking like it is meat-headed in regards to like the plot itself has nothing to say about like politics whatsoever, so they have to like sprinkle it in with these. I mean, it makes sense that they like GoldenEye because like the extra objective stuff feels like half-baked GoldenEye in regards to just complete the level. But if you want to get like extra stuff, you can. And like the harder difficulties you play on, the more objectives you have to do anyways, which is like
I haven't done it, but I looked up Black Ops difficulty, which is hilarious in its extra objectives because the final like big objective marker like thing of the game, and I think this is the most insane thing ever, you have to destroy every destroyable object on the stage or it's automatic failure.
I know.
Everything has to break. You have to salt the earth.
I did Black Ops mode on the first level, and I couldn't because like some of the explosive objects are so small and hidden by debris. Like it's you're not gonna find them, and so it's like so mission failed.
I mean it's like oh god, I don't know. I mean it's like. The whole design of this game, it's like, the story is so self-serious. Like, it is, like, it's like watching, like, a fucking, like, System of a Down music video or something like that. Like, and then you have this gameplay that's like, you are, like, right, go fucking nuts. We will give you a comic amount of bullets. Like, it's
hilarious. It's like, if you know, even this like thing about guns that you pick up like an MP5 and this thing has 60 bullets in it. You pick up the P90 and it has 100 and it's like, fuck it. Bullet hole.
Sure. The funny thing is that when you beat normal for the first time and they get you to do the extra, you unlock silver weapons, which adds this like, hey, we're showing off the engine silver texture to all the guns. You also get infinite bullets, so it is just kind of like you can just go through and. Do you know what I think is like? This is kind of like my thought of like where I landed on the game through playing it. I think this is a really good FPS game for people who have previously played other FPS games. Like it's kind of a bit like Evangelion, where you can enjoy it on its. This is a really.
You're starting somewhere interesting here. Let's see if you can pull it in.
Stick with me here. It's like Evangelion in regards to you can watch it and enjoy on its own, but if you kind of know mecha anime and the stuff that it's sort of deconstructing and riffing on, you get a little bit more out of it. Well, I kind of think with Black, it's the sort of thing of like, you kind of need to be on an extra level of, not irony, but you kind of need to know that they're not trying to replicate real life. They're trying to replicate how guns look and sound in like Hollywood movies.
So that actually kind of brings me to something the way I mentally had this game summed up. And there's two, which is first off, to respond to the Evangelion thing. That's a lot more complex, which the thought I've been sitting on is, this is Call of Duty Black Ops as made by the Asylum.
Yeah,
And I mean that in a complimentary way.
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
The thing I kept saying to you was that I couldn't see Modern Warfare 1 existing without this game because
I
so
can kind
much
of see
of it...
that. It's very appropriate with you, like, Amy, as you brought up, renting it from Blockbuster and, in magazines, because it came out in 2006, and it feels like an early Xbox 360 game running on the PS2, and it is kind of a weird technical marvel. It looks very ugly in a few places, except for the guns, which are the main characters, but also it's appropriate to the Blockbuster thing. And the Asylum thing I just brought up, this is a movie game in my mind. Not in the kind of... A lot of people use it in the modern sense of, like, Uncharted or The Last of Us, or... To me, I played Dead to Rights and I thought, this is the movie game of this age. It's emulating kind of movie tropes and movie this and that. And to that end, the gun noises, they're not sampled from gun ranges or things like that. They're sampled literally from films and then bass boosted like mad.
Like, the guns in this game, like, the sound design on the guns in the game...
It's so good.
It's like... It's hilarious. Like, it distorts my fucking speakers and stuff like that when you're firing like a rapid fire gun, and it's like you say, it's so bass boosted that it's just pounding your ears. Like you say, it's not necessarily like realistic, but it's intense in a way that like few shooters are.
What's more hilarious about that is every gun is pitched at a different pitch because they got the symphony. It's called the Symphony of Bullets.
The Symphony of Guns system. Like this was like on their website they talked about this, and this was their unique selling point of every gun has its own. Did you see the interesting fact about that as well? Was that before they came up with the Symphony of Guns system, their original concept was they were going to mix in animal roars.
Which I'm so sad they didn't. That would have been so good.
I know. Just like imagine just like letting
roar.
Like you just let rip with an AK and it's like sounds like a fucking lion going off. That's so good.
Or like you fire with a sniper rifle and maybe the sound of like a snake biting or something.
Or like an eagle squawking. Yeah.
I mean, I will say, like, a good shotgun sound like can sell me on a game, and like this might be like one of the best I've ever heard in a game.
It's appropriate. It feels like that should evaporate a wall in front of you.
Yep.
And it can in some levels.
But any wall.
Like this game needs like Red Faction style destruction of you can just tear things to... Funnily enough, they did one of the adverts for this game that I remember from the time was like it's set in like a fancy mansion full of like vases and like marble pillars, and it's just getting ripped apart by like AK fire, and you watch everything like blow to pieces in slow motion, which I mean, it's a PS2 game, so it never quite gets to like that level of detail, but like you can imagine if they had ever like redone this, like that's what they would have like nailed is you just go into weird places and just like blow them apart with like assault rifle fire.
Yeah, totally.
That kind of was more realized in Fear and
games
like
that.
And
I mean,
this game it could have as well just been called Dust, because that is the name of the game. Well, it's not the name of the game, but could fucking well be, because...
we were on call while Snake was finishing Black, and he got to the Asylum, which I was like, this is my favourite part of the game, and you're going to see why. And it's literally because you're in close quarters, and it's nothing but, like, concrete pillars. And because, like, because it's so, like, tight-knit and just bullet fire is ripping everywhere, the way that concrete blows apart into smoke in this game and just creates these enormous, like, blinding clouds. It's like my favorite thing out of this game that I wish that like every game did is that or even like it's the one thing I wish the forest level did a bit more is that you could create like not to like make reference to something that people at home and Hamish don't know, but there was a bit in one of our tabletop campaigns where Snake's character created a cloud of smoke by blowing apart, like shooting into a tree with an assault rifle and just creating a cloud of particulate. And I wish that the forest level let you do that as well.
Yeah, totally. I mean, like, it kind of, like, it influences, like, it speaks to the kind of the design of the game as well, where it's like, you know, enemies, like, there are enemies that are spongier than others, but typically enemies are generally quite spongy. And it's like, and your best strategy often like it's not necessarily about precision as much as it's just about getting the general vicinity, and like that's why they give you so many fucking bullets. It's just so you can just go like, right, okay, I'm just firing and hoping that a bunch of these things hit a target or something like that, and the like that's where like the dust comes in, because you're just fucking obliterating rooms, and like there's bits where like you can, you could go down this corridor and take on the enemies head on, or you could go to the right and like destroy all these like walls and stuff. And take that kind of alternate route and like flank your enemy. Like they do some like legitimately quite clever stuff with it.
Like I think the thing that kind of like, especially on like replay, the thing that kind of undoes this game is the fact that like I was looking at reviews at the time, and like it's a classic like 7 out of 10 game because people like it but they don't love it.
Yeah.
And like one of the things that people say is that like it's a game if you like shooting, but that's like all this game has is just shooting. And like it's true, it's not like
crap takedown, to be honest.
Exactly.
A shooter that clearly knows what it is.
Well, no, that's why I think that's why I think this game is so good from like if you've played other FPS games, you would appreciate this more because it is such a kind of a reflection on that. But
this is raw bombast and kinesthetics. Like, it feels like a game where all the multipliers have been set on ×3. Like bullet counts, enemies the whole hit, dust particles, base, everything.
It's the Vlambeer GDC talk where they're talking about like how to add more juice to your games. You add like screen shake and stuff like that. Well, funnily enough, they do have the they tell the story of like a FPS developer. They showed off a gun to their producers and they were like, I don't like the gun feels crap. And all they did was just make it louder, and they went, oh, this gun's really great. And like, I think that's why all the guns in Black feel so good, because they are just so ear-splitting. But I mean, that's why I kind of said like Modern Warfare eventually kind of gets this idea, but polishes it to such a degree that it becomes like the game that everyone wants to copy from there on. Because not only do you have shooting, but you also have it's driving sections. You have like an AC-80 sec. You have all this different variety. And even though at the end of the day it all just is shooting, they do manage to dress it up a lot. Whereas here, the shooting does all kind of look the same, but what makes it interesting is just the amount of like stuff that you can get out of it. Like the levels are filled with explosives to make sure that. And again, I think that's kind of because we were kind of wrestling with the fact that it called itself it was going to do for Burnout it was going to do for FPS games what Burnout did for races, and
I was of two minds about that. I kept trying to work out what exactly. I mean, maybe I was going in the wrong direction at first, because while I did enjoy this game, to talk about my enjoyment curve of this game was weird, because it started high, then like dove really far down on the early field levels, and then it got into the later levels, which were much more CQC, higher impact, and my enjoyment like spiked right back up, and then sort of held, slowly decreasing till the end. And right as I had a similar thing that you did, James, which was right when I wanted it to end.
Yeah, I was saying this game falls into the same camp as Portal 1 and Doom 2016, where the moment I said I'm getting sick of this, the game stopped immediately. it just knew exactly the right time to stop. And that final level of Black.
It was funny looking up. Yeah, it was funny looking up reviews for this though, and finding people complaining it was too short, clocking in at 7 hours, and I thought that's a fucking great amount of time.
There's another review which is like, the problem with this game is that it hasn't got a multiplayer, and it's like, no, that's what's great, because they just focused on the single player. That's what you want,
I mean, I think that's like that's where like the kind of the context of like the time of its release comes into it, because I mean it's like now like playing a game, especially as someone who doesn't really have a lot of time to play games, like that was kind of a perfect amount of time for me to spend with a game like this. And like back then it was much more like games were much longer generally, and I don't know, it was like,
you had more time for the longer games.
Totally, yes. So yeah, I don't know. I don't like, the thing is, I was playing these missions and thinking, even though the game overall isn't very long, the missions themselves
they do they do
go on a bit.
There is filler in each of them, and I might be the only one who feels on it, and it's kind of in the side objectives, but the game feels so focused on the sheer meatiness of you gun people down, you blow them away, that I found all the side objective stuff to be an utterly crap inclusion. Because the levels aren't lookers, they're not interesting environments aside, except from when they're being blown up. Like, all the polygon budget of this game is in blowing shit away and the guns, and it blurs when you reload to make you fucking notice how good the guns are. You know, a feature I never noticed but read that is apparently in the game: the reload animations change their length depending on how much action is going on around you.
Yes, I think I did actually notice that. Like, there were points, so there are animations associated with like switching weapons and stuff. Like when you switch to a sniper rifle, he'll like undo the scope and stuff. And it's like that definitely it is inconsistent though, because there were points where when there wasn't a gunfight going on, he would pull out the sniper rifle and it would be this lengthy thing, and then it worked like how you would expect something like that to work, but then there would be like a major gunfight going on, and I'd pull out my machine gun and, examine it and fucking ready the magazine and all that stuff, and I'm like, fucking hell, let me pull the fucking trigger. So yeah, I can weirdly I can kind of see, I can see like I can see elements of that, like what you're mentioning, but
I did read that and I thought, that sounds like an amazing system. It's a shame I did not notice it whatsoever.
No.
That's a system I thought, that's an idea that if the developers have time is like a nice inclusion.
Totally, yeah. Or like if you're low on
detail.
health, your reloading becomes more desperate, I suppose.
Or just like you stop doing these weapon checks when you pull out a gun and just like, I kind of need this. I'm not going to check this ejector slide. Fuck it, I'm good.
That's what Spec Ops: The Line does, doesn't it? Is that as the game goes along, he stops like using like
his kill animations get more brutal and his call outs get a lot more aggressive,
and he stops doing trigger discipline as well, doesn't he?
I think so. No, that's a cool. He stops keeping his finger off the trigger as the game goes on, which is it's a contentious game in a lot of circles nowadays, but I love the extraneous details on how Walker's character breaks down.
Do you know what's funny though is that we were talking about the side objectives in this, and I was kind of like, how could you do better? And a game that we will be covering very soon, and this is like the only thing I can give to this game over Blight, but 50 Cent Blood on the Sand. How the objectives are folded into that game, where it is like they give you these timed objectives of hit the guys who are currently rushing you, or take out the explosive guy, or don't take any damage for 30 seconds. At least all of that is folded into what you're doing, which is just shooting people, versus in this, where it feels like the awkwardness of like perfect. Well, it's the GoldenEye and Perfect Dark thing of like you're exploring around and looking for stuff because you're a spy, but you're not in this. You're a fucking grunt. You're going in and you're blowing the shit out of everything. So why would you go out of your way to blow up a computer that had Burnout rendering secrets on it?
Because you're a special like black operative, even though this is about as far from fucking clandestine as you can possibly get.
This is like the opposite. This is the opposite of clandestine.
I'm just thinking about, like, because we talked about earlier, the story was the last thing to be added. Can you imagine if there was no story and you picked up the secrets and we were just getting bombarded with, planned gas attack in a mall, nuclear secrets?
Honestly,
imagine if there was even less context to frame it. You just wonder, what the fuck is going on here? what trail am I guess it would be an improvement actually.
I would want no plot, but I would want like virtuous cop style openings where it's like you and one of the squaddies going, we gotta go here, we gotta shoot him.
Like Black genuinely needed 2 lines of dialogue to be a story, which is you and a guy like getting ready by a door, and then he says, "You're ready to go," and you go, "Yeah," and you turn around, and there's guys with guns pointed at you, and then you just go forward like a fucking lawnmower of human life to the end.
Black opens in the weirdest way anyways, which is that you're in the interview room, and then you start in a room which looks like a bombed-out version of the interview room.
Yeah.
You pick up a shotgun, and the first thing they tell you is, a shotgun can blow a door off its hinges. Give it a go. And that is like...
That's
did
the
you ever
only
play the
tutorial
fucking...
you get.
Yeah, it's such a good tutorial. God, and the fact that like when you, it's like if you move your reticule over something and it turns black, that means it blows up. Give it a try. Okay, sure.
That's all you need.
God, so quick question though, Hamish. Did you replay this for the pod?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
How did you replay it for the pod?
So I emulated it on PCSX2.
Okay.
All right.
We also emulated it on PCSX.
Hey, Hamish, can I ask a question?
Yep.
What time of day does this game take place at?
Exclusively in it's not even a time of day. It's just the void.
Okay, so.
Yeah, do you want to tell him?
It doesn't take place during the void.
I'm aware. It's
we
that's an emulation
we
thing.
fucking won. Or I wasn't.
So I had beaten it, and I was watching Snake play it over stream, and I was just like, oh, it's really cool. It's like, it all takes place in one night, and it's like a really cool idea that like, they put all the details.
It was James. I remember though, because I beat the second mission, and I sent you a message, and I was like, "Is the sky just meant to be pitch black? Because it seems right, but I'm not sure."
Did I just reply with "Yeah, I think so"?
I think you did. So
what you're doing the levels,
Sorry. What happened was we got to the bridge, and I was looking out, and it's a pitch black sky, but with a yellow outline. I'm like, that doesn't look right.
Yeah, well, it was like, yeah, I mean, so I was like, I was going through a level and it was pitch black, but there were god rays everywhere. And the thing is, like, so I actually remember the thing where the level where you're going through like the graveyard and stuff, and I remember that being during the day, and so I was playing and I was like, did this game have like dynamic like time of day? And then I was like, no, it's
system
not. But I will say that so playing it on PCSX2, I downloaded the 60 frames per second.
Oh yeah, so did I.
So I'm the only one here who's played it in 30 frames per second exclusively.
So I played a bit of it in the kind of traditional, like as close as you're going to get to what it would have been like on a PS2.
Sure.
And then use the fucking mod and all the emulation stuff, and it like when you do it like that, it's like it looks like a kind of a slightly below average like PS3 game at that stage.
Yeah.
And it also kind of breaks the game because you can suddenly see enemies so much further into the distance, and you're just like picking them off with a fucking pistol.
You also clip really badly, and so like I was trying to avoid small rooms as much as possible because I would get stuck. But it was so funny because I was playing it at 60 FPS, and like when Snake was playing through it, I was saying to him, "Oh, this game is like so interesting in its art design because the guns have like the highest detail in them, and then the backgrounds are kind of low poly, and then there's no skybox. It's just such a cool look." Like and the fact that it's pitch black means that everything shows up. And then I watched the clip, and again, you mentioned the sniper level set during the day where I was like, "Oh, this is so moody at night, like in a grave." And you watched it, and I was just losing it because I was like, "Oh my god, that was what they were actually going for."
I don't know what it says besides, well, a lot of things about us, but about the game is that I was perfectly ready to believe it all takes place during like a single night. And I didn't disbelieve it. The graphics didn't feel like, it's Hollywood lighting. Of course, I'd still be able to see stuff on the ground. That's fine.
I'm controversial take. I think I actually kind of prefer it. constantly.
Now you could just be justifying us in hindsight.
No. I'm gonna like meet Alex Ward and be like, oh, I play the game. I'm just telling you, you should play it on PCSX2. Without the skybox, it looks way better. And he's just like, okay, thanks.
I mean, but the thing is though, like, is it like the action of the game? Is it not like just a kind of continuous, like?
It's
it
one
does
fight
feel
after
like
the
a
other.
continuous action that just doesn't stop.
Yeah.
Like this is one man's dogged pursuit.
So I get kind of thinking like it could take place during one night or something like that.
I think it takes place during one day, because the time does change as like the day goes on.
Yeah, I mean, like, well, when you get to the docks, is that not meant to be like the daytime or something like that? I can't remember.
I think so. The docks, by the way, which is the only time in the game where they have an in-game cutscene, and oh boy, it cracked us up. Where again they pipe in the Spider-Man soundtrack. It's the bit where Uncle Ben dies, but it's showing all these ragdoll PS2 models on top of each other. And at this point, you have to be like, "Oh no, he killed my squad!" And it's just like, "Wait, I had a squad."
And I'm just sitting there thinking, "Wait, have I hit a benchmark option that I wasn't?"
I got there and I went, "Oh, did I do that? Was that my objective? Was I meant to blow all those guys up? Oh wait, no, they're playing they're playing the Uncle Ben has died music. I don't think so."
It is a nice little bit of, not pathetic fallacy, because that's rain or whatever, but
Sure.
I guess I'm meant to be sad, the music's playing and there are corpses. I've made a lot of those and I didn't really care, but
Yeah.
damn, Rusky stole people I could have killed.
So the guys who did the music for the game, so it was Chris Tilton, who is he's like a protege of Michael Giacchino or Giacchino or something. Don't know how to pronounce his surname, but he does like all the Marvel stuff now. But Chris Tilton he does like a lot of J.J. Abrams stuff. Like he did all the Star Trek films that he worked on. But more importantly to me, he did the soundtrack for SimCity 2013. And I'm like the only person who likes that game and really likes that soundtrack. So it was nice seeing his name again and being like, Chris, you did the tracks to this. But yeah, it is just such an... Again, like the game is just like really interesting because it is just so like... They absolutely know what they're going for. They are like aiming for this kind of like Hollywood being... Well, it's like trying to make like a playable Michael Bay movie. And I think... like to an extent they kind of pull that off, but it would have been better. And again, like going back to the whole thing that it was meant to do what Burnout did for races, it would have been nicer if the actual explosive side of stuff, like the game is full of explosives that you can blow up, but it'd be like if you had like a little score multiplier. Again, that's something that weirdly 50 Cent does better. Again, such an odd thing to say. But it's
basically the thing that gets in the way of it for me is my mind kind of went to speed. It doesn't feel... It feels punchy, and I don't know if some of it feels very punchy and deliberate, and I'm wondering... I find myself stuck between wishing that I moved 25% faster and wondering, would it remove the punch if I was 25% more agile?
Yeah.
Like moving and aiming.
Yeah.
Or does it feel like I'm a slow, creeping, pounding machine of death?
Mm-hmm. That was what I was going to say. It's like you kind of feel like that mission in GTA 5 where you're robbing the bank and you come out with the fucking miniguns and the body armor.
And you are just an unstoppable wave of destruction, but you move at, like, you can only walk because you're in a big padded suit.
Yeah. I mean, like, but the thing is, though, I was going to say this earlier, but it's like I feel like there's the potential for the game to fall into this kind of awkward, like, middle ground where the guns, like, aesthetically are, like, so heavy and punchy and, like, just got this oomph to them. But, like, because the game, like, kind of necessitates a kind of spray and pray approach with all of them, like, the enemies are so spongy that, like, at points it kind of removes... like some of it negates some of that power. Yeah. Like I mean, it feels good to shoot the guns anyway, which I think was a quote like they said about like it should feel good to shoot a gun in an empty room or something like that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But it's like you know, like just in terms of the enemies themselves, like like there were points where I was thinking like, are these guns actually as powerful as they feel? Because because when I'm getting up close to enemies, sometimes it doesn't really feel like I'm doing. It feels like I should be doing more damage with these guns than I actually am on enemies.
Yeah, I almost wonder whether it would have been a smarter idea if they made him infinite ammo from the start and like fully lean into, well, you know, guys in action movies never have to scrounge for ammo. They always just seem to have enough on them. And I mean, obviously, I imagine, people were already complaining about it for like being subversive to begin with, and I feel like that probably would have pushed it a little bit more over the edge. But no, I totally get you. Like,
I think having an ammo count, I actually think removing reloading would have been fine, but I think there should have been an ammo count. They should have just doomed it. Actually, no, I don't even think completely. If they were going to go in that direction, I'd prefer that you still had to look for bullets and have incentive to change up your gun.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, you know, that's why they have the two, you know, they bring over the two weapon limit from Halo, which, I mean, every shooter was doing that. I think Medal of Honor started doing it, and again, like, that's why they did that. But again, it's as you said, they want you to keep kind of playing around with guns, and, you know, certain sections it makes more sense to have a sniper or a rocket launcher and stuff, and yeah. I don't know, it's funny.
I always felt kind of discouraged using the sniper. I always felt like
I never enjoyed using the sniper.
You remember that section that I was stuck on when I was like doing my kind of push to the end?
Yeah.
Like, and I kept using the sniper and dying until eventually I just like went in a bit more aggressive, and that got me through it.
Yeah. No, exactly. Like, you just ended up having to like race car it at the end, which I always think is that kind of like a bit of a failing on the game's part when you have to do that. But then in a game like Black, it's almost like, well, because it's meant to be about, like, you know, boom, boom, boom action anyways. Like, it kind of fits, but it also does kind of feel like you're robbing yourself a little bit of stuff.
I don't know, I didn't feel like I was robbing myself. I think, like, pushing against the enemy horde was what I was enjoying about that game anyway.
Yeah.
It was my less fun moments were at the beginning of each level where, until I hit the 3 out of 3 found objectives, I wasn't... The moment I had that kind of weight off my mind and could just go at the enemies, like...
Yeah.
That was what I was waiting for. It's like, oh cool, I found 3 out of 3. Phew, nothing to think about. Bang, 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 bang. Onwards I go.
Yeah.
That was definitely like a kind of a point of like weird anxiety for me. Was like, am I going to get to the end of this level and find that I have to do it all again? Like, because there aren't many checkpoints in the game.
Exactly. Yeah.
The checkpointing is bad in Black.
Levels can run you about 40 minutes to an hour, and I think they might have 3 or 4 checkpoints apiece.
Yeah.
They are, you've got to play good. You can't die.
That's where PlayStation, the PCSX2 save states come in.
I didn't use those. I played honorably. I played Black like a good American honorable soldier.
I mean, to be fair, like I played like the first half of the game, like, you know, just, you know, pure, and it was and I was like, I have other shit to do.
I was gonna say, what was your point that you started using save states?
I think it was when was it? It was after the first level where you come across minefields.
Okay, the minefield was exactly where I did it as well.
I was just like, man, fuck this. I've got a lot of work to do. I can't like just keep banging my head against Black from 2006.
That is absolutely fair enough.
To be fair, like I you know, it's still like it's not like it's not an insanely difficult game. It's just one that is highly frustrating if you fuck up.
I think there was a lot of odd ways. James could attest. There was one section where I just kept dying over and over, and luckily that wasn't near the beginning of a checkpoint, but it was that docks level.
Yeah, it was the third part of the docks level where it just turns into a sniper's alley, and it just, again, like, my favorite bits of the game are when you're in close quarters, and my least favorite bits are when you're in like wide open spaces, because it's just like, again, it's console.
It's death from all angles, because it's not very nice with a lot of the enemy spawns, and things can get so messy that It's like, oh, where am I being shot from? Everywhere. Cool, great. I'll work on that.
And even just like from an artistic side, like it doesn't show off the game. It is like you want to be in like a tight space where you can see all the guns and all the chaos going off. Meanwhile, the Sniper's Alley, like you could blow up a couple of the gas tanks, but that was it really. There wasn't a ton of opportunity for a lot of mayhem, which
I mean, I think that's like it's interesting because like one of the things that was surprising about this game was like it's not an open like a super open game by any means, but there are a number of ways you can like go about moving forward on that path, you know. And like the bits where it kind of allows you to kind of choose those different divergences, it's like those are the bits that are, like you say, kind of the weakest from like just a pure kind of carnage perspective. Like it's I guess you could argue that like when you come up against like a massive building and there's like several guys with rockets, but there's a red barrel there and that takes out the entire fucking building somehow. Like, you know, like that is not necessarily a great kind of like gameplay challenge by any means. But it's the kind of spectacle that you want from a game like this.
Oh,
like,
totally.
Yeah.
I think when this game, to use a driving analogy, when this game stays in its lane, I think it does do really, like, it when it can show off, like, what it's really good at, it sings, but, like, the moments where it becomes, like, any other shooter and you start comparing it to, like, what other shooters do well, and not even, like, modern stuff, I mean, like, of it, like, Halo Combat Evolved and stuff like Halo Combat Evolved is, like, the perfect example of the open areas are better than the corridor stuff because that game is tuned for it. Whereas with it, and then like Medal of Honor kind of manages to do both really well because, you know, it does the D-Day section, which is so wide open and full of choice. But then when you're in trenches and stuff, that feels really good as well. But yeah, I don't know. They didn't.
I mean, this game's kind of specialized for cramped environments where there's a lot of stuff to, you know, blow shit out of.
Yeah.
Kick up your dust clouds, and there's enemies in that dust cloud, but it doesn't matter because you're just firing relentlessly in every direction you face.
If this was a Raid Redemption game, it would be the best game ever made. However, because it is black, it is merely I don't know. I still think this is a really good game, and even like taking like age into account, still holds up super well. The fact that you're able to remount your controls, also, I appreciate that massively.
Yeah. I totally, I mean, like that was one of the things where I was thinking, God, this was like one of the last big, or I say big, but you know, like one of the last kind of big shooters before Modern Warfare, and like so it was like one like the last kind of like pre-standardization, you know, games like of that kind, I guess. But like then you actually go into it and you realize, oh, this is actually you can just make it like that standardized control setup, you know. But I kind of enjoyed like going back to it and like having to kind of grapple with, you know, even just things like, all right, it's L1 and R1 that are the main kind of like combat buttons as opposed to like, you know, the triggers and stuff. Like it was interesting. I kind of liked it. It was, you know, it like variety is good. Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah, I didn't mess with the bindings. I tend not to do that with a lot of games. I messed with another episode coming up. I messed with Time Splitters because that had some asinine decisions.
Yes,
that is like change the best weapon on pickup. That got me killed so fucking much. But this game, I got used to it like super quick. Because it's everything just kind of fits into your head really simply and really quickly once you just start going with it. Because really, all you need to know is how do I lob a grenade? How do I shoot? Cool, yeah. I'm sorted. You don't even really need to aim in. And it's funny that there's only one gun that has an iron sight, which is the bloody rocket launcher.
That's true, yeah.
It's really funny that there's an entire button dedicated to attaching a silencer.
Press triangle. That is the most surplus to requirement.
like on so many levels as well. Like the fact that you have the triangle button to attach a silencer is a weird button to do that with anyway. But also, applying a silencer in Black. Like, it's like
I will say though, I love this. I love the sounds that the guns make with suppressors on. It is so
totally
like,
yes.
It's unreal. They sound like fucking laser weapons from like Halo. But yeah, it's so good. But they are completely unrealistic.
It is the barest nod to the idea that this is a stealth mission.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
In any capacity.
But the thing is as well, like, I mean, that kind of thing really highlights another aspect of this game, which is that the AI, outside of like flanking you at times, is the dumbest I have seen in a long time. You can be like lobbing grenades and firing rocket launchers at people, and then you'll turn a corner and the enemy that you come up against there wouldn't have heard any of that stuff happening just around the corner. They'll just be much. Like you can go up to them and like melee them without them knowing.
I wonder how much of that was intentional, because I did notice that a lot of the monster closets where enemies come out of are where the big explosives are. So it is kind of like I think the farmhouse level is the best example of that, because you go upstairs and then you turn around and they start pooling in, and you have the two giant gas silos, you have the car, you have the tractor and the gas barrels, and they're all using that for cover, and it's like, you're doing this intentionally. I know what you're doing here.
Yeah.
I think for me, the moment that kind of summed up the enemies not being the brightest bulbs, and in a way that I think it's got to be some intentionality to it, was the introduction to the shield enemy, where he's placed in this kind of corridor flanked by side rooms that you can kind of get a flank on him on. And when you go around, he gives you a whole second before his AI will turn and face you, even if he's like seen you do the same trick several times. He stands like ramrod still in the thing. He's looking at you. You leave, you go to the opposite doorway, and then he'll just eventually get around to it. And then you do the same trick, but he does not. And it's like, yeah, okay. They telegraph the shield enemies so much, and it's basically the only goddamn thing that's telegraphed in the enemies.
It's like a Mario enemy in regards to like how dumb it is and like how telegraphed he is. The weak spot,
like this guy exists to get blown the fuck out. That's
why they gave him the shield, to at least give him a fighting chance.
Oh god, it's great.
Overall, how would we sum up Black? What's our feelings on Black?
I want to say one more thing, which is I do appreciate that the final level is essentially you go down into a giant bunker, descend through bunker upon bunker to get to a room where you kill men for 15 minutes straight, and then the final boss is revealed to be 2 more bunkers.
And not only that, but you apparently you kill him off screen. You don't even get the joy of killing the final boss. And then to add salt to the room, it cuts back to the 2 guys in the room and they go, yeah, he's not actually dead.
Yeah, and then, like, the game literally ends with the sentence, right, let's begin. Are
you ready for your next mission? Yeah, it ends on a fucking cliffhanger. And all the interview stuff, they're like, we're just focusing on Black 1 for now. We're not even talking about sequels.
I mean, story was a last-minute addition, apparently. So at the last minute, literal last minute, yeah, let's have a cliffhanger.
I mean, it's god. I just think that like the biggest problem with the story is that it happens completely separate to gameplay. Like, you know, I thought it was kind, you know, as much as the side objective stuff sucks from a gameplay perspective, I did think that it was like, okay, this is selling the idea that, like, in a really schlocky way, that we are not the good guys.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we're destroying evidence of U.S. government like corruption and stuff like that, and all this kind of crazy shit. And it's like that does a much better job than, you know, all this stuff about fucking, you know, this what was it, the 7th wave or whatever they're called?
7th wave. They're
it was very, very, very daft.
Just as one final note, watching the credits, it was a joy to see Sean Murray as the lead gameplay programmer of Black.
What?
Yeah,
oh,
do you know this?
Because of course. No, he started was at Criterion, wasn't he?
Yeah, and obvious, and fucking God, what's the name of the company that he Hollow Games is Guildford based as well, like Criterion.
Ah, of course, yes. Okay.
What is it with Guildford? What happens there?
They just have a lot of studios there. That's the shit. And the thing is that from those studios, people leave and form their own studios in the backyard, so they can just nick people from the other studios. So.
I mean, like if I imagine in Sean Murray's life, there was a point where he was at a crossing, and if he turned left instead of right, he would have wound up at Lionhead instead.
Yeah, exactly.
He would have been on Fable.
Yeah, he said like, okay, I've made Black. Now I want to like simulate an entire universe.
Well, all those big empty nothing spaces in Black have given me an idea.
Hold on, what if I can turn the worst parts of Black into the best parts of this game?
Infinite void of nothingness. That sounds good.
God. I did forget to say though that this game is part of my favourite an invented genre that I've created myself of developers best known for racing games deciding to make an FPS game. This is in the this is alongside Bizarre Creations and Codemasters, where Bizarre did The Club and 007 Bloodstone, and Codemasters would go on to do Body Count, which just as a note, so Black didn't get a sequel because EA were like, this didn't sell it. Oh yeah, so you probably people at home probably already figured this out based on the fact that it's on this podcast. It didn't do very well. According to the ELSPA, it sold 200,000 copies in the UK, like in its first few months. Yeah, and yeah, EA were basically like, "Well, I'm glad you guys made this, but this was a disaster." They literally had a Burnout game out the same year as like a reboot project, and again, like, because Revenge is just kind of a lot. It's just more Burnout free, isn't it? But just on a nicer system.
But with the traffic
really
checking
good
feature that makes it so much better.
Yeah, you could slingshot cars into other cars. It's amazing.
Yeah. It's the best Burnout.
I need to play it. That sounds really good. But yeah, weirdly, if you emulate it wrong, then Burnout Revenge also has the same fucking void skybox problem. Oh really?
It must have been a shared engine thing.
Yeah, it must be a renderware issue. That's really interesting.
That should be more common then, because renderware is ubiquitous for the era.
Well,
totally,
isn't renderware what GTA was built on up until Rage?
I believe so.
Wow.
I mean, also, I'm guessing basically then that Black was trying to do what Burnout did for racing games, and then Burnout Revenge did for racing games what Black failed to do for the shooter genre.
Which was make money.
I have no idea if that sentence made sense, by the way. I just started and tried to get to the end.
God.
Like a racing game.
They were planning to do a sequel. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention this guy. The creative director of Black was called Stuart Black. And that's what the game is named after. In honor of Stuart Black. But basically, yeah, EA were like, they did pitch a sequel and EA were like, we're not interested, could you make more Burnout games and then Need for Speed games, which that's kind of what they do now. They also do. They also work on the racing portions of like the battle. I call them the race. There's no races in Battlefield. They just have. They work on the vehicle portions of the Battlefield and the Battlefront games. But a lot of the developers who worked at who works at Criterion ended up going to Codemasters, which I think was only like a couple of miles down the road. They're based in Leamington Spa, I believe, which is middle of England, and that's where Stuart Black went. And there was a point when they were at Codemasters where they were like, we need to get a game out for like this date. Do you think you can turn around like an FPS game or something? And he goes, I got just the thing for you. And so what essentially happens is that there is a spiritual sequel to Black that came out like nearly a decade ago at this point called Body Count, which we probably will cover on the podcast at some point. Doesn't emulate super well. I am actually going to have to get like an Xbox 360 for it, but of what I've played, not as polished as Black, but maybe a lot more interesting than Black is, like just on a surface level. It has the you know in Doom 2016 where you punch people to get your health back and it creates the glory cone, and creates the fountain of drops. Yeah, Body Count has that. Like,
All right.
like 4 years prior, but you don't have to melee people, you can just shoot them. And the whole idea is that you never have to stop moving. You can just run into crowds of people, blow them apart, pick up health and ammo drops, and then just keep like the whole thing is meant to be like just non-stop. And
Right.
in that regard, yeah, they fucking nail it. It does feel like really good, but I don't know. I think we'd probably have to get a bit more into it if we ever do an episode of Body Count, which I don't know. We'll have to see what happens with that.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, no, interesting game. And Black, pretty good game, but didn't sell super well, which nicely segues into the last part of the show. Everyone's favourite bit, I hope, from the last episode. Hamish, we're going to play a little game. Oh, what's the snake? You don't know about this. We're going to play a little game.
Okay. All right.
So,
I'm not chained
basically,
up.
we're going to be having a look at the charts for the week that Black came out, and we're going to...
Oh, God.
You guys are going to guess what the top 5 games were the week that Black came out
Christ.
in February 26th, 2006. Now, just as a reminder,
Okay.
Black failed to chart. So Black isn't on this list.
Okay, so we do have to guess 5 games, not 4 games. Great.
God, I wouldn't even know where to fucking start with that. Jesus.
Yeah,
That's
I'm trying to reach into my satchel of what came out in 2006.
Well, I'll give you a clue. This is the first proper year of the Xbox 360.
Oh, right, okay.
The Wii
I know
isn't
it came out in November 05.
Yeah, the Wii isn't out yet, and like basically, it's quite funny. Like the later episodes of Bullet Time is literally just all the top 5 are just Wii titles because it's like it's just a fucking.
So
juggernaut.
this episode's a bit of a reprieve. Has the PS3 come out yet?
Not yet. No, that'll be the
Not yet, no.
middle or the end of 2006.
Okay, yeah. So that removes my first guess off the table.
Number 1 is another EA published title, like Black, but this one is a sports game.
What was it?
Is it?
FIFA? FIFA?
It is not. It is not. I'll give you a clue. It's not FIFA and it's not Madden.
Right.
Is it Need for Speed Most Wanted?
It is not Need for Speed Most Wanted. I would classify that as a racing game, not a sports.
Oh, racing and sports.
Racing
kinda.
is a sports. That's very true.
God, I don't.
Is it Skate?
It's not Skate.
It was all shot in the dark, that one.
No, that's fair enough.
This section is going to have people screaming at their screens, James. And at us.
Hey, folks at home, if you want to type out your comments with a 5-star review, please do.
I was about to
5
say
stars, these
Condemned,
guys are
but
idiots.
then that's Sega and not a sports game.
What was that?
I was about to say Condemned, but that's Sega and not a sports game,
That's
unless
true.
you count that as a sport.
Similar to Condemned in regards to how you.
Is
interact.
it Fight Night?
It is, but which one?
Fight Night Round 2. No, not Round 3?
Fight Night 06, perhaps.
It is Fight Night Round 3
Okay.
for the Xbox 360.
That was the one that had the analog stick movement system.
That's true, which I always thought was quite cool, but I never bought it.
I liked it. I actually played a fair chunk of Round 3, which is kind of a shame I couldn't remember that was the year it
Didn't
came
they
out.
reuse that engine for Def Jam, not Fight for New York, the Icon or whatever it's
No,
called?
I don't believe... I mean, they could have done, but I don't believe they did. Maybe? I know that game had a weird... You do more damage if you punch in rhythm with the music system, which was not enjoyable.
Number 2 on the list is a new entry for this week. A game that I totally forgot existed, which isn't much of a helpful clue, but there we go.
Yeah.
A Nintendo DS game starring a Mario character.
Super Princess Peach?
How the fuck did you get that?
Because I remember Super Princess Peach, and there was not many options.
Wow, okay. I thought you would have been struggling with like Yoshi for a bit, or like was there a Donkey Kong game? But no, fucking
I
hell.
can surprise you.
Yeah, I know. Bloody hell. Number 3, in its 28th week, is another Nintendo DS game.
In its
Is it-
28th week. This
This was a popular title.
It was top
Is
charting.
it new Super Mario Bros?
It is not New Super Mario Bros. That comes out later in the year, though.
Is it Nintendogs?
It is Nintendogs.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I remember that fucking hell. Literally, earlier today, I asked someone in work what they were playing, and they said Nintendogs, and I was like, no one's thought about Nintendogs in 10 years. And he said,
People have actual dogs now.
He botched his response. Which,
He invented dogs.
well, he botched his response to no one's thought about Nintendogs in 10 years. He's like, well, in 10 years when your dog's dead.
Wow.
Like, fucking hell, mate.
Fucking hell.
All right. In 10 years when your dog is forgotten on that DS.
In 10 years when you're dead. It's like, what?
And that cartridge is rotted.
He meant it in good fun. I hope he never listens to this podcast. There's not much fun in that.
Number 4 on the list. Another new entry this week. It is a sports title, but it's not an EA one. It's a Sony franchise, if you can believe that.
Oh.
Oh, Sony. Okay, so that wipes out Pro Evo.
Uh-huh. And this is football, which they stopped making at this point.
Sony football game. God, this is lost.
Red card soccer.
It's not a football game, but it is a ball game of sorts.
It's not a football game, but it is a ball game.
A game, a ball is involved in the game.
NBA 2K is 2K, not Sony. So
Correct.
yeah, so that wiping that one off the charts. I don't even remember Sony doing sports games.
Yeah,
This is another 3-letter acronym like the NBA, though.
I'm just gonna start spouting then. NFL.
It's not NFL.
NHL.
It's not NHL and it's not NHS either.
Is it a rugby game?
It is not a rugby game.
Is there a 3-letter acronym for any rugby association?
I don't know.
BMX.
Not BMX.
BMX XXX.
It is not BMX XXX, which, Hamish, if you didn't know this, it was made on the Dave Mirra engine as a means to recoup money after Dave Mirra didn't sell. BMX XXX.
Let's put tits on Dave Mirra.
Yeah.
I'm coming up. Man, I just came off 2 successful answers, and now I'm stumped by the Sony sports game that time and me forgot.
I'll give you both. I was going to say I'm going to give Hamish a clue, but technically I'm giving you both a clue.
I'll take my headphones off.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
All right.
Think American.
I already.
I don't know.
I mean,
Sport with a ball.
it's not Madden, but it's an American sport. So
It's an American. What? It's you could call it the American
Is it
pastime.
tennis? Is it tennis?
It's not
the
tennis,
American
but
pastime. Oh, MLB.
yes.
Right.
But what is the name of that franchise?
MLB
Out of the Park.
It's not MLB Out of the Park, but it's the one that MLB Out of the Park is based on.
Oh, I didn't even know.
Christ.
MLB The Diamond Years.
It's MLB The Something.
MLB The Show.
Yes, MLB The Show 06 for the PSP.
Right. Okay.
You could have just let me keep making up baseball names. I was going to have fun with that.
Keep going.
No, there's no fun in it. Now, MLB The Fun Day Out. MLB, but minor.
MLB The Black.
Melby.
And then number 5, in its 13th week on the charts, is another Nintendo DS game.
In its 13th week on the... Brain Training.
It's not Brain Training. I'm hoping Hamish can get... Hamish
I feel bad.
no points.
I'm going to be honest. I'm fucking amazed that I'm the one who's gone for.
I told you about the quiz earlier, and you were like, I don't know if I'll be any good at that, but you've been fucking...
You're asking me to come up with 5 games that came out in February 2006.
With clues.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So it's a DS. So it's a DS game. What kind of game is it? Can you tell me that?
Relatively long-running Nintendo franchise.
Is it Picross?
It is not Picross. Think bigger franchise than Picross.
Zelda?
Probably a bigger...
Tetris?
What's that? Tetris?
Yeah, there was a lot of Tetris.
There is a really good Tetris DS game this year. But
There's
it's
several.
not.
But, okay.
I would say relatively, the franchises are now relatively on the same level as Zelda after the Switch game that came out a few years ago during COVID and did really well.
Well, that
right.
That's a slam dunk.
That pretty much gives it away, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
that's a 2-letter acronym, that is.
Assassin's Creed 3.
Right, so is it an Animal Crossing game then?
Yes, but what is the subtitle?
The show.
Points on the board for that. Animal Crossing Black.
Oh god.
I'll give you a clue.
Is that City Life?
No, City Life is the Wii one. This came out before. I'll give you a clue. Cat Stevens song.
Oh fuck.
That was a clue for Hamish.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm completely blanking. I'm sorry. I don't know.
No, is it
I'm
new,
so
is it
shite
new
at this
Neighbours?
Ooh, baby, baby, it's a. What's the lyric after that?
Dawn of the Dead.
Moon Shadow.
No, dang it! It's not Kate Bush.
Oh god,
Actually, it's not even Kate Bush, is it? It's fucking who's the Tubular Bells guy who does Moon Shadow?
Friends of Mineral
Mike
Town.
Oldfield or whatever.
Yeah, Mike Oldfield. Yeah.
Oh no.
It's a double. It's an alliterative name. It starts with two letters, same two letters.
Okay, that doesn't help. This is an amazing stumper that we've got half the title.
Is it Wild World?
It is Wild World. Yes.
Okay.
That's bollocks. There's nothing wild about
Wild World.
I've never heard of that.
No.
I was going to give a clue that Eurothug 4000 made a video about it, but I thought that would have been giving it away. But
Right.
I have zero interest in the Animal Crossing. I was a Harvest Moon kid, if at all.
Well, there we go.
I was too busy playing Black.
Yeah. God. Hamish,
Aye.
it has been lovely having you on the podcast to guess Animal Crossing Wild World and also to talk about Black. Anything you want to plug? Anything you want to tell the audience at home about while we're here?
Sure. I mean, if you just check out youtube.com/ratingongames, patreon.com/ratingongames. I've got stuff going up there. Anchor.fm/ratingongamescast. I'm also I'm back on now. We can move forward with Ex Commanderless.
Nice.
I'm the most valuable crew member. Because
I will say it's been several weeks since the last one. You missed the fucking calamity.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that.
Oh yeah. God, I totally forgot.
We're coming back, and I think it's gonna be a slow death march, and then we'll see if we want to do a third run of it. And we'll see how that goes.
It is really funny that you play Ex Commanderless like Black.
Exactly.
Just on a weird note. Semi-related to Ex Commanderless. Terra, I think it's called Terra Invicta. I'm gonna actually pull up Steam real quick. But the Terra Invicta, a fully developed game, like their first sole release of the XCOM Long War devs came out today.
Oh, interesting.
Terra Invicta, and I don't know if it's good. It's it's coming out in early access, but they say everything's there. This is just for rebalancing. Sounds interesting. It's a game about aliens are approaching Earth, and it's a geopolitical simulator where you have to get Earth ready for aliens turning up.
Neat.
Cool.
Which, that's just on a vaguely related note, and that game's been sitting on my mind all day, and I was like, I literally learned about it this morning on the bus, and I was like, that's interesting.
Speaking of Snake, thank you for being guest host on this one. Is there anything you'd like to promote apart from Terra Invictus while we're here?
Well, it feels weird because all I've got to plug is this, aside from my own channel. Because youtube.com/tosnakera, patreon.com/tosnakera. I do very long video game stuff. I wouldn't actually call them essays. It's been a weird argument I've been having in my head for the last several years.
I'm with you on that for my stuff as well.
For me, I think I just call them like tour guides in my head at this point.
I wouldn't call this podcast a video essay. For one thing, it's not a video; it's an audio-based medium, and two, it does not follow the essay format whatsoever. But
there's no thesis.
The thesis is that Black, pretty good.
Yeah,
if you want to give it a shot, pretty good. The thesis of Black is that the music in it is really funny, considering what you do, like on a moment-to-moment basis.
It's a lark. It's a laugh.
It is. As per usual, I've been James. You can follow me on Twitter at Hotcider, HOTCYDER. The podcast is supported by Patreon, and you can find me on Patreon at Hotcider as well. On the next episode of Bullet Time, we'll be looking at 2005's Geist, a game about spooky ghosts with special guest Rasputin, or I guess Rasputin for that, because I guess it'll be a game about ghosts, so we'll see what happens with that. Until next time, though, folks, keep blasting.
What the fuck was that? Keep blasting.
You know the famous Bullet Time catchphrase.
Yeah.
Keep blasting.
Keep blasting, and I'll keep
blast on, gamers.
The Bullet Time podcast is made possible by Eric Hamilton Schneider, Valerie B, VG, and the Hot Cider support tier. If you'd like to help with the production of episodes and gain access to extra content, consider supporting over at patreon.com/hotcider. That's HOTCYDER. A special thanks to Max Coburn for the Bullet Time theme tune.